Now I will show how to import data into Rapid Geology. We open the Import Data menu here, and first we look at how to import world map. So we open that one, and then we launch the map application, which is a separate application, but it's bundled with Rapid Geology. The first time you press Launch Map, you might have to wait for a few seconds before it pops up, because your computer is performing a virus scan on this application. When you open it, it says shift left click to draw a map area and then shift right click to commit. If I do that, shift left click, hold down the left button, and then I drag, you see you get this square, and then I release the mouse button, shift is still down, and then I click on the right button, and then it says downloading. When downloading is gone, it's ready and you can load the height map, pressing load height map. In this map application, you can do more. You can pan, and you can with the left button, and you can zoom with the scroll wheel on the mouse, and you have access to the whole world. You can also choose between different overlays. We have OpenStreetMap, Google Satellite, Google Hybrid, and Terrain, which also has terrain curves on it when you zoom close enough. In addition, you can set an area by setting latitude, longitude, let's say 10, 10, 20, 20, and then you press set, and then it jumps. That's 10, 10, 20, 20, and this is where we are. And then to download that, you do just shift right click. But let's choose an area with a more interesting height profile. So I do a shift left and then shift right. Wait until downloading is gone. Now it's gone. We can close this and we press load height map. And then you see it shows up here at the bottom. You can also get the axis values turned on. Then you open the set boundaries and you press show axis and then you close it again. So now we have the axis and you see this is height, and these values here are UTM coordinates. We automatically translate from latitude longitude to UTM coordinates, and it's not perfectly accurate. When you want to have a solid model below this terrain surface, you press the cut button. Before that, you can offset this terrain a little bit. You can move it up and down, and you will see that after some time the axis values are updated also. So that's 0 meters above sea level. You can also change the scale. By default, the X, Y, and Z scale is 1:1, but you can change that. So you turn off the locked aspect ratio, and then you can use this slider here to exaggerate or flatten even more the heights. And also you see that the Z axis is updated accordingly. We move it a little bit further down, and then you press cut. When you press cut, it becomes a solid below. After you've done that, it's important to turn off the map surface, because that's still on and it's on the top here. You turn off the map surface and then you have this image here. What we see here is the texture projected onto the top of the terrain. You can also toggle that on and off, or you can change the degree of transparency or opacity. Some areas will have depth values below sea. If you want it to be totally flat, like it is here, then you turn on rectify height map before you perform the cut. When you save a project that has such a texture and you load it again, the texture will not be there anymore. To get the texture back, you have to manually select texture. The texture is automatically saved in the same folder that the project is in. So when you load the project, you have to press this button and then select the PNG file in that folder. And then it will be shown on top. You can also select a different texture, and then that other texture will also be projected from the top. The texture is projected on the top even though you change the terrain. So if I take this part and hide it, and here, hide it, then it will be projected onto below. It's always projected onto whatever is shown on the top. We have looked at the import world map, which works well, importing seismic, geotiff, satmap surface and wells, they are all in beta version. That's because these formats, they have different variations and exception cases. And we cannot guarantee yet that we support all these variations. So if your seismic data or if your data here does not work, you could send it to us and then we will update the software so it works for that variant also. When importing these data, it's useful to open the set boundaries and turn on the show access. It's also useful to look at some of these other settings when we import data, so we keep that menu open. Let's look at importing seismic data. Here it gives a short introduction of how to do it, but I will explain it also. When you press import, it opens a file selector and your installation comes with the folder deploy datasets, and in that segway satmap data, which has examples of satmap and segway datasets. It's possible to select one file, or you can select multiple files. You can also select a combination of files and it will work, but let's focus on the segway data. We select these 5 files, we press open, and here you see the 5 files as 5 different cross sections. The access values are not updated automatically, but when you choose the set scale, it updates and you have the correct values. This is in UTM coordinates. In addition to be able to set the set scale, you can also change the bounding box if you only want to work in a small section of the dataset. I will show you this for these other examples here, but let's keep it like we have it here, and I will show you what you can do with the seismic datasets. First, you can press on this and you will see each of the dataset has a toggle which you can turn on and off. And what you can do with these cross sections is to draw surfaces using anchor curves. To draw a surface, if I just press here and draw a surface, it will draw on the bounding box, as you see here. We don't want to draw on the bounding box, we want to draw on the cross sections. To do that, you have to hide the bounding box. When you start drawing on one cross section, it will only draw on that one, as you see here. Sometimes there is a bug and it draws on another one, and to be sure that it works, the safest thing is to turn off all the cross sections that you don't want to draw on. It also makes sense because then it's easier to see the data. You draw according to the seismic you see. So you would draw like this, and then you would turn on maybe this one and draw on that one, maybe turn off the anchor surface, and then you could draw and end up having a surface that fits your data. And then when you have done that, you can press cut and you have a surface, and you can continue doing that. That was the seismic data, and related to seismic data, you have satmap surfaces. So let's take that before we take geotiff. We import, and then you have satmap examples here. Let's choose all of them, and you press open. Notice that there is a checkbox here which says negate set values when loading, because sometimes the set values are negative, means below, sometimes positive means below, so that depends on the data set. In this data we have to have this on, and it's on by default. When I press open, it opens these surfaces. You can toggle them on and off. Let's turn on the axis so we see the coordinate system. Similarly as for seismic, we have this set scale thing here. And in addition, you can, as you see when I change the set scale, it fits the bounding box. But you can also, if you want to work on a even smaller area, you can change the bounding box and make it even smaller. This area, and then you press B box zoom, and then you will be working only in this small area and have full resolution here. If you press zoom reset, it goes back. So let's keep this big area now, and I'll show you how to use these surfaces. These surfaces can be used the same way as you use anchor surfaces or the world map surface, that you press cut and everything below becomes solid. Let's turn all of them off. The bottom one we turn on and we press cut, and then it becomes solid here. Take that off and turn on the surface above here, and we press cut, and then we get a solid between these two. And you can continue doing that for all of the surfaces, and assign lithologies and continue to model based on these satmap surfaces. You can also import all of them together, and then you have it like this. So you can start modeling based on both the seismic and the satmap data. Also here we move this before it updates and gives the right access values. In general, when you look at the set boundaries menu and you look at the access values, when you import data, the access values are set automatically because it's based on the data. So it automatically fills out the access lengths in meters, the start values in UTM coordinates, but you can choose yourself the tick step. This is also automatically set to become round values, but you can change the tick steps. So in SAT, it's every 500 meters you have a tick, you see here, and it only shows the value 2000, 1000 every second tick. So if you change that to every tick and we press update, you get it for every of them, but you can change the distance between them to 200 and update, and you get more. So these are user defined. You can choose them yourself, and you can change the color of the axis too. Now we will go back to geotiff. We have example geotiff data in our project. So we import, and example is in the simple dataset. Here you have a TIFF file, which is the heights, and this is a TIFF file, which is the satellite photo. So we open the heights, and then it asks you, is this a height map or is it a grayscale image? It doesn't know. So you just have to tell it it's a height map. It shows it, the height map here. Also here you can change the exaggerations, and it will fit the bounding box after you do that. It's useful to have show the axis. And again, if you want, sometimes a geotiff can be very high resolution. In that case, you might only want to work in a small section of it. So in that case, you can select a small area and press bounding box zoom. And then when you press cut, it only does that for that area that you zoomed into, and then you turn off the height map and you continue working in this small area. If you want to texture it, then you again press import and you choose the TIFF texture, and it will be shown correctly. And here we have the opacity that you can set. The import wells I have already shown in a different video for the simple dataset. If you don't import data, you have to set the boundaries yourself. So we open set boundaries. By default, the X, Y, and Z axis are 1000 meters. So if you turn on show axis, you see it goes from 0 to 1000 for all three axes. That can be changed. For instance, 500. And then after you change it, you have to press set bounding box size. Or we could change the set to 100 meters, set bounding box size. Currently, it's not possible to scale the set axis when you set the boundaries yourself. This will be improved. Let's take it back to 1000. You can also set the start values. Here you see it starts at 0, 0, 0, but you can have the start coordinate exactly what you want. Then you have to press update axis, and the numbers are rounded so that you have nice numbers. Let's go back to 0 and then look at the tick step and text step. So the tick step is the step between these ticks here, as you see. So it is 50 meters, so it's 50 and then you have 100. And the text step is 2. That means that for each second tick we have the text. So you can change that to 1, and then you have more dense, and you can change the tick step. Let's do the set axis to 100 and update like this. To make it easier to draw your model, it's possible to add different types of reference geometry. Right now I will show you the grid. So show grid, and then you can choose which side of the bounding box the grid should be shown on. So let's show it on the south side. So now it's turned on here, and you see the grid. You can see that the grid is aligned with the tick step. So here I have tick step 50, and then the line comes out from 50. And for the Z axis, it's 100, and it goes along 100. You can turn on the other sides too, and the top. And you can also choose a stick out. So stick out 0, here stick out is 1, and then the grid sticks out, basically 1 or 2 extra cells. You can also make it more or less transparent, less, more. And you can choose to only show horizontal or vertical lines, so east-west lines or up-down lines, like this.